One thing is if you're a medical student, quite a lot of challenges. There still are lots of challenges. In healthcare, there's lots of health tech startups that really do just need, especially if you're working with someone that isn't in healthcare. And I really believe that's the best way to go about generating awareness, but also like getting people interested in what you do. For them, success is we need to get this many sign-ups or these many sales.
Want to know the guy behind the QuesMed memes? Well, introducing Tiarnán, a final year med student at Plymouth who is the founder of Key Socials, a marketing consultancy for healthcare brands. In this episode, we explore how he started up, key marketing principles that all healthcare brands should know about, and how you can improve your personal brand and LinkedIn. So we hope you enjoy.
Hello, Tiarnán. Welcome to the More Than Medics podcast. So lovely to have you on. How are you doing today?
Doing well. It's been a day of calls in a library, which is fun.
Calls in the library. Well, I'm in the library right now. Yeah, it's been a long day, I think, for us all. I guess to start, could you just give a brief introduction as to who you are and what you're up to at the moment?
Sure. So my name's Tiarnán. I am a final year medical student at Plymouth and founder at Key Socials, which is a healthcare marketing consultancy.
Awesome. And where are you from, Tiarnán, actually?
Ireland.
Ireland, right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Lovely. And you finished your MLA and stuff, obviously. So congrats. Want to formally congratulate you on the podcast, even though you did it a bit earlier. Yeah, let's get into it then. Key Socials, that's your marketing consultancy that you run. I guess take us right back to how all of this started. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started with me in first year wanting to do something on the side, basically just to get some money. I wanted to tutor initially and then thought that doesn't really work that well because it means I have to be, at a specific place with my laptop, with my camera on, and just quite difficult to balance that at any sort of scale whilst at medical school. So I started looking into other things, and actually, when I was trying to build some sort of tutoring profile for myself, I started building Instagram pages for that. So I built like an Instagram page that got like 5,000 followers just to convert people onto my tutoring services. And I really enjoyed learning how to do that and the whole social media management and how to convert people from social media. So I thought actually I'll try and do this a bit more. Learned a bit more about marketing and email marketing, paid advertising, and started doing it for free for some companies, and then just really enjoyed it and went from there.
Nice.
Amazing. What was it about marketing that interested you?
So it's really kind of results driven, if that makes sense. So it was very much I could see what things worked and what things didn't work. Um,
Hmm.
Able to test different things and see what seems to work. And then at the end of it, having some sort of result, which is either you grow a newsletter or you get more social media followers or you get more sales or more leads. But everything is very much down to what you do at the very, like the top of the funnel, I suppose. I found that really fun. It was like creative problem solving, but with like money on the line. So it was quite fun.
Yeah. Do you like I guess for marketing, like it's a lot of it is psychology, right? Is that something that interests you? Is that something the way you like marketing as well?
Yeah, it's really fun. So a lot of what we do is testing different copy. So just testing text on landing pages on websites. And we'll run traffic to two different pages and change one sentence and see how much just changing one sentence impacts how many people signed up on that page, which is really fun. And
Yeah. Are there
it's
any like cool
fun.
like marketing psychological principles that you'd like to maybe share? Is there one or two that are kind of cool that you come across?
It's difficult. So there's a few that have come to mind just from some pages that we've been working on today, which are all around scarcity. So if you're running a program or you're running a conference or whatever people might be doing, no matter how many places are left, if you tell people how many places are left and just put only in front of it, it always increases the conversions. So
Yeah.
for a company, for example, if they can only work with 50 clients, even though they're never going to work with 50 clients in a month, if they say only 50 spots remaining, it always increases interest. Or if you add a time deadline onto things, that's something
Yeah.
that we see massively increases conversion rates as well.
Yeah, I was looking at sorry, I was looking at sofas today and random, right? Very random sofas. And it was like £1,500 for a sofa, and it said only, and I was like, you can't be doing that. At some point, you got to draw the line. But I did kind of take my mind to that place that you mentioned. Yeah, go on, yes.
You mentioned how it kind of started off with your social media account where you got up to 5,000 followers. So then how did you actually then get the business of Key Socials like on the ground running?
Yeah, yeah. So I started with my own page. I found it quite interesting. And then my logical jump was like, so I can run social media accounts and I'll teach myself how to do some other things. But in the meantime, let me reach out to doctors who have their own companies and see if they need help with social media. Um, because I just from being in clinics with doctors, there was lots of them that had these ideas for like apps that they wanted to create or all these solutions that would benefit patients, but none of them had any idea how to actually get that in front of the right people. So that was one of the first things that interested me. I was like, I can just reach out to them and tell them that I'll help them with social media or with whatever. I did that and I did it for free for quite a few months just to build a portfolio of some sort and then started charging people for it afterwards and then kind of took on a few clients myself. And once I reached capacity, instead of stopping there, I was like, right, let me start hiring people and building out teams for each of these different services. And that's kind of been what I've been doing for the past few years.
And how do you kind of showcase your value? Because I was just thinking then, like starting off, you probably can't say that you will charge because you need to actually build that portfolio and showcase that you have value to these companies. So how do you actually portray that value to them that you offer?
Yeah, it's difficult, like you said. Some people don't like the idea of working for free and kind of discourage that. I don't think it's a problem. It's just you're never really working for free. There's always a transaction of some sort. So if someone's just got a new business idea or something that they want to do, it's absolutely fine to do it for free in the first instance. But like I said, it's not really for free. You have to get a testimonial at the end of it, or a video testimonial, or a review, or a Google review. Um, Often with, especially in healthcare, there's lots of health tech startups that really do just need an extra pair of hands to do things. So if you're interested in doing something, you just have to kind of stand up and tell people that you're interested in it, and there's lots of opportunities to get involved. That's when you're building your value and working out what value you add. After that, it's how you showcase your value is just the results that you've got previously, and they should speak for themselves, really.
Yeah. How did you build up your knowledge? Did you build it up through any sort of courses or anything like formal, semi-formal type education, or was it literally just learn by doing? How did you do it?
Yeah, learn by doing, and then anytime I wasn't doing medicine, I was trying to teach myself how to do something else, but it was all informal, so it was all just YouTube, kind of self-taught, keeping up to date with what the best practices were in each of these different marketing avenues, but very informal. And I
Yeah.
don't think you need to do anything formal really. It just needs to be teach yourself, test it, fail quickly, and then get better at doing it.
Yeah.
Mm. And what were kind of like the main challenges that you experienced throughout your journey? Because I can imagine, obviously, at first, you don't know it all. So, like you said, you have to kind of teach yourself, learn on the go, fail fast. So then you can, learn the tricks of the trade. So, what other challenges did you face?
I think so. There was quite a lot of challenges. There still are lots of challenges. One thing is if you're a medical student or a doctor trying to run a business, you're extremely time poor. So you've got basically no time, especially during the day. It worked out okay for me because I only work with doctors or like doctor-led organizations, so they're pretty understanding of that, and often they also don't have much free time. But I found a lot of the difficulties I had with most of my clients, if we had any difficulties, were based around communication because I was at placement from 8 until 5, still am some days, and then you come home and that's when your kind of business time is. So especially before I started hiring people and it was just me, there was quite large parts of the day where communication will be quite difficult. And I think anyone who's doing anything alongside medicine needs to kind of learn how to deal with that.
How do you deal with that? Oh, sorry, Martin.
Go
Just
on.
to come back off that, how do you kind of deal with that communication?
You hire people. That
Yeah.
does happen. But even not doing that, I think having really clear expectations on when you're going to meet up with a client is super important. I'm saying client because that's like the terminology that I would use, but regardless of what someone's doing, if you've got really clear standards on what your working times are. So I do this whenever I'm starting a new working relationship with someone. I say, here are the times that you might be able, like you can expect a reply from me. Here's the times that you might not be able to expect a reply. And then that's penciling regular catch-ups that are on specific days so that there isn't this expectation of, especially if you're working with someone that isn't in healthcare or isn't can't really understand why you're not replying from 9 until 12 and then from 1 until 5 or so on. So it's just setting expectations and setting up regular communication as well.
I guess I guess that's specific or maybe more relevant to I guess healthcare organizations because everyone's just busy. What are the like other things within marketing that is sort of that you do that is specific to healthcare that you won't really find or is more important in healthcare marketing as opposed to general marketing?
Yeah, sure. So we work with some private healthcare providers and with some NHS healthcare providers, so people who are actually delivering healthcare directly to patients.
Mm.
There are lots of rules and regulations about how you can market or advertise or approach sales from that perspective, which are very different from the kind of rules and regulations in most other industries. So there's lots of gray areas, and
What kind of rules?
I'll give you a very specific example. So you're
Yeah.
not supposed to talk about Botox directly,
Okay.
because it's a prescription only medication. Yet I'm sure if you look up Botox on your phone, you'll find lots of people advertising Botox directly.
Mm.
Um, so there's lots of very specific things like that. If something's supposed to be prescription only, you shouldn't be advertising it. You shouldn't even be kind of inferring that you're advertising it because it's something that you should only get from a doctor who thinks it's the best treatment for whatever you have.
Right.
Uh, so that's one thing. I mean, the whole one of the broad concepts behind marketing is you need to make people feel like they're missing out on whatever you're offering them if they don't take advantage of it. You have to basically scrap that in healthcare marketing because you can't try and convince a patient that they need a GP appointment because it's up to the patient if they need a GP appointment, if that makes sense. So a lot of the standard approaches that you might take don't work, and it's a lot more about establishing trust and building authority and kind of showing patients that whenever they do need a doctor or healthcare provider, that you're the best person to go to, rather than just convincing everyone that they need to go see their doctor.
That's really interesting, actually. And kind of linking to that, um, when you're helping out these clients, these healthcare-based clients, do you have a particular strategy that you work on, like a marketing strategy, or how do you kind of initiate the help that you are going to give them? Is it based on what strategy they already have in place?
Not particularly. So we do speak about what their strategy is at the moment, and that can be helpful. What we typically like asking, and what I'll ask on a kind of discovery call, I suppose, is what hasn't worked for them previously, just to see if we can learn anything from that, especially if they've been working with an in-house marketing team or someone external. What we typically build a strategy around is what their goals are. Um, for some people, their goal is they need to build a mailing list of so many thousand people, and that's all that they're interested in. For others, it's like we need to get maybe not patients, maybe it's a healthcare organization that's targeting doctors or medical students. And what they're doing is very sales focused. So for them, success is we need to get this many sign-ups or these many sales by the end of the month, every month. So it's very dependent on what their goal is, and then we build a strategy backwards from that. Something I did incorrectly when I just started was kind of come up with a strategy and then try and mold the strategy to fit their goals instead of doing the opposite, which is what we do now.
So is you help a few organizations, right? So is every strategy quite different, or is there like how much of it is sort of like copy and paste almost, I guess, and how much of it is tailored?
Good question. I would say there's some things that are replicable across different organizations.
Hmm.
Uh, let's say organizations have the same goal with a similar budget, with a similar time frame that they want to work in. There's some things that are transferable then because you're doing the same thing within the same limitations with the same goal, let's say. but then every organization has a different, let's say, ideal audience that they're trying to target, and
Mm.
they've got different offers that they have, and they've got um, different things that make them unique. So the nuances and basically how you can take the things that make that organization unique and then apply it to the general things that we've seen work previously.
Yeah. So do you work with QuesMed? Is that right?
Yeah,
What are the sort of things that you do for QuesMed maybe that is different to other organizations?
sure. So I do a lot of work with QuesMed's social media
Mm.
page specifically. If anyone's seen QuesMed's social media page, you know that it's basically just memes over and over.
Yeah, yeah.
Quite entertaining.
And everyone knows that it's just memes over and over again.
That's you. You're the man behind the meme.
um, it works for some reason. And I suppose this just highlights something else, which is if something's working, don't fix it, like don't change it. If you took if someone external came in and was like, we need to change this whole strategy, we need to do X, Y, Z. One of the big things with any change in marketing strategy is you need to know why you're making the change and what results you want to see differently. The Quesmed page grows with what we're doing, and this kind of steps slightly outside of what I do, which is more around branding. I don't, that's not my expertise. There's people who know a lot more about branding, but Quesmed's social media and newsletter and so on are quite in keeping with the brand voice that they have. Um,
So
where,
marketing is quite a big field, at least from my understanding, from what I learned on my management course. It's like includes like pricing strategy, it includes branding. So what is the area of marketing that you specialize in particularly?
sure. There's a couple of different ways to approach that question, I suppose. How we view marketing is you've got sales, which is trying to convince the person in front of you, usually on a one-to-one basis, that they should buy your service because it's the best thing for them. Marketing then is just doing that, but to a larger scale. So instead of it being one-to-one, it's one-to-many. That can include everything from top of the funnel, which is generating brand awareness, getting people to find out who you are, all the way down to how you nurture that person that might eventually buy from you and then convince them to buy. So that includes um, converting people using a landing page. It includes generating the initial awareness through things like paid ads, um, social media, organic social media, SEO, so search engine optimization, building newsletters, running events. We kind of do everything in that area. We do some pricing strategy with some of our clients, I would say, but we don't do a lot of deep work using like different pricing strategy models that I speak with some people about. Our strategy with that is very much more, let's increase the price and see if people continue to buy.
I know on your LinkedIn you do a lot of kind of information giving when it comes to marketing from your experience. And I know you have talked a lot about paid ads and what works and what doesn't. Would you be able to kind of share some of your insights into how does a paid ad work and how can you maximize on it?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So before you run paid ads, you have to kind of realize that the only thing that a paid ad does is generate traffic. So some people think about ads as like, I'm going to run ads and get sales from it. All that an ad does is increase the number of people who see whatever you're paying, for the ad. You need to know what you're running the paid ad for. And this is kind of the boring answer, but it's the most important part, which is you have to have an offer. So what do you want people to do when they see the ad? And how are you going to eventually convert them? And then the purpose of your ad, your paid ad, so that could be on Google, could be on Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, or it could be on LinkedIn. The purpose of your ad is just getting more eyes on whatever your offer is, whatever you want people to do. The best way to do that is by creating video ads and then capturing people's attention through the video ad. The most important thing being the first 2 seconds of the video ad, making sure you capture people's attention because it's very difficult to capture people's attention, and no matter how good your ad is, how good your offer is, the whole purpose of the ad is just get people's attention in the first 2 seconds, convince them to click on the ad, and then the ad has done its job. If it does that, everything after that is how you've built the page, what your offer is.
I had a question as well. obviously you have to market yourself to these organizations for them to allow you to market for them. Sorry, I've worded that horribly. How have you found that? How do you market yourself to
Yeah.
market for others?
Yeah, and I mean, this is the good thing about it is if people get on a call with me, they've typically seen my ad and booked the call, so
Yeah, there
they've
we go.
got proof that it
Proof
works
in the
in some.
pudding, yeah.
That's part of it. A large part of the people who end up working with us come through my LinkedIn. So, like you just said, my LinkedIn is basically just me talking about things that we have found that work. And I really believe that's the best way to go about generating awareness, but also like getting people interested in what you do, is you just give them lots of value and tell them what works so that whenever they encounter the problem that you solve, your name comes up in their mind. They think this person might be able to solve, the problem that I have. Um, so yeah, we run ads ourselves. So we kind of use the same things that we do for our clients for our own ads as well. And then some of it's organic.
Can I ask how important are metrics when looking at marketing? Because I can imagine that a lot of people, when it comes to their marketing strategies, may initially be like, okay, our aim is to reach 2,000 followers or 3,000 followers, or have this many likes, etc. When ultimately, like you were mentioning earlier, the actual end goal might be to increase their sales, to have more people on their newsletter. These are kind of the actual end goals, long-term end goals that they want. Those kind of metrics are more short-term. So how important is it to kind of analyze those metrics? And should we really focus on them a lot or not really?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I talk about this with my team so often. We mostly work with smaller organizations, so organizations that are doing like under 1 million in turnover per year, let's say. So they don't have massive, marketing teams that they've built out with sub teams within them. If you're working with someone of that size, they probably have like a social media department who might genuinely, their goal might just be we need to reach this many followers, and that's fine, but I don't know anyone in that position. When I work with someone and when we bring on a new uh, organization that we're working with, what we say is we need to get as close to revenue as possible. So what that means is if they start out by saying that their goal is to get more likes, that's not going to work. For us, we can't work with that. So we have to then work to get as close to revenue as possible. Something like increasing mailing list, how many people are on a mailing list is a bit closer to revenue because we know that people on a newsletter are more likely to convert. If we go a step beyond that, how many leads they generate per month, again, is a lot closer to revenue. And then beyond that, it's just sales. So we work with some companies and we are just in charge of generating X amount of sales for them, which is as close to revenue as you can be. So it's super important. It's really difficult to work any other way than that because although I think marketing is completely numbers based and should be directly tied to revenue, especially for smaller organizations, otherwise you can't really pay for support. Or I mean, you also shouldn't use your own time and allocate it towards just growing on social media without having something at the end of it that's concrete and financial and helps your business grow.
Hmm. Does it ever, when an organization hires you to do their marketing for them, does your services ever sort of pay itself back? Like they pay you a certain amount of money, um, and then the sort of the amount of conversions you make sort of makes it such that they've actually earned money from this rather than, or is it always sort of
No, it
is
needs to be that. Yeah, it has to be that. Otherwise, it doesn't work. I can't work with an organization and say, this is how much we charge per month. You're not going to see that again. Like you're just paying for me to be here. They have to get more return on their investment than what they're spending. Otherwise, we aren't doing our job.
I just want to ask as well, because you mentioned in newsletters, Facebook, Meta ads, all of this. What are what modalities do you specialize in, or is it literally all of them?
We work with all of them.
Oh,
The idea being, so, and I did this consciously, when I started working with clients and kind of building out a team, I had calls with people who, especially doctors, who were frustrated that they had a social media person and a website person, and neither of them understood healthcare, and it just meant that it was quite awkward because you had to go between I've got this person who runs my ads, I've got this person who manages my social media, and then I've got this person who helps me update my website. And that's 3 calls per week that you have to have. So I deliberately was like, thought, right, I will be the person for all of these things to a point. And I've hired people who are much smarter than I am in each of these areas. But I deliberately wanted to be like a comprehensive digital marketing service rather than we only specialize in one area. I see the benefit of doing both, but I would rather be comprehensive.
And I guess your market is like less, not massive organization, so you can have that sort of holistic approach. Like what is your speciality within marketing? Like what is your forte, would you say? What are you most nimble with? Which platform?
Is that me specifically?
That's you specifically, yeah. Which one do you enjoy using the most?
Interesting. So I initially would have said mailing lists, so building newsletters and maximizing open rate and click through rate and things like that. I think it's because that was one of the things that I initially really got interested in and spent a lot of time working on. The thing that I spend most of my time working on now is conversion rate optimization, which is on websites, on landing pages that we send people to, increasing the number of people who opt in or like buy from a landing page. So um, that's what most of my time will be spent on this weekend is just looking at landing pages and being like, this one has a 20% opt-in rate. How can I increase it to 25%?
Mm. What is like the one thing that people do on their websites that is just like not helping them at all, and they can quickly sort of change it maybe, and it increases their
Yeah,
conversion.
yeah. I think it's like 90% of people who visit your website won't scroll past the first headline. So
Oh,
all of your time should be spent on the first headline and making sure that whether you're on mobile or on your desktop, the only thing you should care about is the very top screen and just work on improving that.
wow, interesting.
That's really interesting. And kind of following up on that, what kind of tips would you give to healthcare organizations to refine their marketing strategies so they can get better outcomes?
That's a broad question. Um, it depends what their goal is, like going back to their goal. I think the majority of healthcare organizations, let's say, especially the ones that I've spoken with, place too much of an emphasis on social media. So their marketing strategy is just posting on social media, where that's probably not the thing that they should be spending most of their time on. Another thing is if they worry about how they're going to implement a marketing plan, let's say it is social media or advertising, they spend more time thinking about the implementation rather than what their offer is or who their target audience is, when it should be the other way around. All of the strategy and thinking time should go into who you're trying to target and why you're targeting them instead of like what your social media posts are going to look like.
Hmm. So they're spending too much time on social media. Where should they be directing it? Into who their marketers? Is that what you said? So,
Yeah, if it's just from an implementation point of view,
hmm.
social media might be the right platform for you potentially. I like to ask the question when I get on calls with people, which is people might come to me saying, I want some help with social media. And I say, if we were to just get you more sales or more leads, would you care how we did it? And often they say, we actually, no, we don't care how you do it. And I say,
Hmm.
well, you don't really want help with social media, then you just want help with getting more leads or sales. And if you are trying to get sales or build leads or build a mailing list, social media is not the best place to do that. When I say social media, I mean organic, like just posting on Instagram and Facebook. If you're advertising on social media, then yes, but most people just post and kind of hope that someone pays them for what they're posting and kind of signs up that way.
So it's really addressing kind of the root cause of what the problem they're facing is. That's kind of how then you can improve your marketing strategy. If you actually understand the root cause of what you want ultimately, whether it is the more sales, then you can kind of work backwards and think, okay, this is what we can do then to help it. Whereas a lot of people think superficially in terms of they just think that by increasing the posts or increasing the followers, that will ultimately help.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and this applies on a smaller level for people who have like so we all know when people run medical societies and they want to get more people to sign up for a conference, the first thing that they do is start posting on social media to get people to sign up for a conference when they've probably themselves not signed up for many conferences through social media because every WhatsApp group chat just gets filled with conferences that people are attending. But they think about it that way. They think I will just post on social media and people will sign up instead of trying to think outside of the box and wondering how to get people to sign up, I suppose.
And what's outside of the box in this case, in this example you've given?
So I tell people to do bun sales or like cake sales to get people to sign up for conferences, and that seems to work a bit better just because people like bun sales.
Well, I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Oh, like no, no, no. So people do this to raise money, so they will go to like a local bakery and get loads of cakes and that sort of thing, and then go to their medical school and sell them for like £1 per cake to raise money. I've seen people do that where they just do the same thing and even can still do it for charity, but then they also mention that they're running some sort of conference for whatever their med soc is, and then have people sign up using the QR code whilst they're doing that. Seems to generate a bit more interest than just posting a link in a WhatsApp group chat.
Interesting. I wanted to ask, how have you managed to balance all of this whilst also being a medical student?
I haven't. I haven't very
I
well.
love the honesty.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really. Um, so I'm not going into foundation training. I'm working on my business full time from 10 weeks time. And I've known that for the past year or maybe, but I've been thinking about it for the past 2 or 3 years. So I've known that I need to work enough that I can pay myself a full-time salary from like May onwards, essentially. So there wasn't any balance because I needed to pass finals, but I also needed to get myself into a position that I know I can be financially secure just by paying myself. So there wasn't any balance. It was just a lot of work. But now that's relaxed a bit. And I think that's important for anyone that's in like healthcare or doing something outside of their 9 to 5. It's fine if it's not balanced. And I think it's difficult when you've got the mixture of like you obviously want to look after your physical health and mental health and so on. But it's also really difficult to be balancing two things and still have time to go to the gym and see friends as often as you want to. But if you kind of compartmentalize it and say for the next 3 months, I have to go to the gym less, but after that, I'll go back to going to the gym more, like doing whatever your extracurriculars are, and just block it off into like different seasons. I think that has helped.
Yeah, it is tough balancing it all. I just wanted, so you're not doing F1 and F2, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
How did I mean, it's seemingly a big decision, I think a lot of people would say. How did you come to that decision?
So I started thinking about it probably in year three. Ours is a 5 year course, so like 2 years ago. Um, the reason I started thinking about it was just that I didn't enjoy time on placements very much. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't like, this is really fun and exciting. Um, so that kind of planted the idea, and I went back and forth for a while, just thinking I would do something non-clinical instead. I thought about intercalating and doing like a healthcare management course, for example. Um, but gradually just thought, well, the only reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to do clinical medicine. It's not because I want to do healthcare management. Um, One of the factors that came under the decision was that I kind of you spend time with consultants and you spend time with registrars, and I didn't look at what they were doing and be like, I would like to be doing that in 10 years' time or 15 years' time. So I thought I don't really like it at the moment, and I don't like what I would end up doing in 10 years' time. So when you think about that, it's not that difficult of a decision.
Yeah. What do you see yourself practicing medicine in any way in the future?
No.
Not at all. Oh, very interesting. Okay.
And how have you kind of balanced that? Obviously, a lot of the times as medics, we tend to compare ourselves, which is not the greatest trait. But how have you been able to balance that while seeing all your other friends, apply for the F1 jobs, knowing they're going to continue kind of practicing, and you've made a really, bold decision, which is very respectful because you're following your passions ultimately, to kind of continue on with your business. How have you kind of balanced those feelings?
I haven't got any feelings of like, oh, I wish I was doing what everyone else is doing. instead I'm really excited to be doing the thing that I want to do, if that makes sense. I'm not like, this is very different from what everyone else is doing. I'm just thinking more, I get to now do the thing full time that I've been having to try and find time to do instead. And like what I said, because it's been such a difficult like year or two with balancing everything, actually at the end of this year it's going to be so much better because I'm not balancing two things. I'm just doing the one thing I enjoy and then also having more time to get back into extracurriculars and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think more the medics, like we're big on like you can do so much as a doctor and you can sort of diversify what you do and do a bunch of different things. Obviously, it's not endless. You don't have a massive, there's a limited amount of bandwidth that you have. But obviously sometimes as you realize and reflected, sometimes it maybe just isn't for you, and maybe something else is your calling, and maybe you don't have time for both, which is completely fair. Um, I just wanted to ask a question I had earlier about marketing yourself. How I noticed you have LinkedIn Premium, the golden LinkedIn thing. How has that? Well, LinkedIn that is a massive tool, I think, for healthcare professionals to sort of market themselves. How has LinkedIn or LinkedIn Premium as well helped you, and how would you advise others to use it to their advantage?
Yeah, LinkedIn's been great. So I started using LinkedIn again maybe 2 or 3 years ago and just consistently decided, right, I'm going to post often. No one, especially if you're just beginning and you have no idea of what LinkedIn is or how best to use it, no one knows how to do that. That you just need to start posting and then learn as you go. Um, the most important thing on LinkedIn, and like I said, it's been really useful for me. I think maybe 30 or 40% of the people that I've ended up working with have seen me on LinkedIn at some point or have come directly from LinkedIn. So it's been really useful. And that's not including just all the connections that you make and all the people you get to talk to, aside from the people who might become, partners or you end up in working relationships with. What people need to do on LinkedIn is get clear on kind of branding themselves the right way. So if you go onto my profile, it should be obvious that I do something healthcare marketing related, and everyone just needs to do that, and that can change. So from a purely medical perspective, if you're just interested in getting more work experience in Max Fax, you can put that on your LinkedIn as your headline and then reach out to loads of people in Max Fax and you'll get so many opportunities. Or if you want to get involved in a startup in some capacity, you just put that as your headline and start reaching out to people. And I don't think people realize how easy it is to get opportunities by just
Mm.
asking for opportunities
Yeah.
because actually, especially in healthcare, like doctors like helping each other, like helping medical students. There's not this weird kind of seniority complex or anything. People just like helping people and having people get involved in what they're doing. So you just have to show up and just ask, and it seems to work quite well.
Yeah, I think it's like an absolute superpower having LinkedIn exist because
Yeah.
previously, obviously from a marketing standpoint, it's massive. I'm just a med student. Otherwise, without LinkedIn, I have to work through the ranks and go to a high sort of a conference to sort of meet someone who's maybe a CEO or a leader in the NHS. Whereas on LinkedIn, I can literally just type in that job title and and find them and connect with them and have a conversation. It's insane. How do you sort of interact with it? Are you connecting with people constantly? Are you reaching out to people, or do you let them reach out to you? Are you like commenting? How are you optimally using it to your advantage?
Yeah, I'm not optimally using it, I would say.
Mm.
If I was giving someone advice on how to use it, it would be different than how I use it. But this is just coming from like a time per perspective.
Yeah,
LinkedIn only take up so much time. I deliberately or I consciously post 3 or 4 times per week and kind of have always done that. That seems to be a
wow.
good spot. If you post around 3 times per week, seems to be
Yeah,
a good balance. Um, I have someone that helps me with my LinkedIn, so helps me with content ideas and generating content as well. But previously, it was just I would just come up with ideas and post them. Um, I also connect with people every day, and that's something new and something I would encourage people to do. So all of the people I connect with are typically doctors that also have like founder or CEO in their title, because that kind of matches my
yeah,
client base. I don't leave very many comments. But again, like the optimal way to grow on LinkedIn is to connect with 20 people per day and comment on 5 or 10 posts per day. If you were really going all out and LinkedIn was a strategy that you wanted to use to grow, uh,
Mm.
then of course that's better. But for me, I'm kind of doing the bare minimum, which is I'll connect with people and post.
Mm. Is LinkedIn Premium worth it for med students and doctors?
So LinkedIn Premium, and I haven't looked at the differences in a long time.
Oh,
As far as I'm aware that what LinkedIn Premium lets me do that you can't get from your like a normal LinkedIn
yeah.
package is that I get to see people who viewed my profile and see
Mm.
all like everyone who's viewed my profile. Um, if that is the difference, that is really useful because that's one of the only things that I look at on the platform. If someone
Yeah, I don't think I have that. So yeah, I think that is the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is really useful because someone's viewed your profile, they've obviously got some sort of interest in what you're doing. And if you connect with them pretty shortly after they've viewed your profile, it's just a good way of building your network, if nothing else.
And for medics, when it comes, you've talked about kind of online networking and building your profile. In terms of in person, what tips would you give to kind of build that authentic connection with people?
Yeah, that's difficult. So I am in Plymouth, which means my ability to network in person is extremely limited.
I can
Um,
imagine.
Feel your pain, man, in Cardiff. Yeah.
yeah, it's quite difficult. I've been to a few events before, most of which have been in London, so it's a bit awkward for me to get to be fair. Um, Advice for in-person networking. I'm definitely not the person that can give good advice on that. The people who I've seen do it well are just super keen and kind of leave any sort of anxiety or nerves they have about speaking to people at the door. And I actually don't know how to do it to be fair because that would I would be so mentally exhausted. But just seeing people like they go to an event, they don't even stop for a glass of water. They're just bouncing between different people, introducing themselves. Um, I'm not sure how effective it is, like I said, because I've not done it very well. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe a question for someone else.
Cool. I also have a question, slightly abstract, I guess. K Socials, do you have your own sort of website and social media presence as Socials?
We have a website, yeah, but it pretty much acts as a bit more of a billboard. So we don't do any SEO on it. We don't do any search engine optimization because we're not trying to generate leads through that. So it basically just acts as I mean, we get some, we'll get maybe like one person per month who comes
Yeah.
across the website and leaves an inquiry, but it just
Yeah.
acts as a bit of a billboard, really.
Yeah, my question is, I guess, how linked is sort of your the way you get leads to your personal brand? Like how what's the sort of overlap? Because it seems like there's quite a lot. Like K
Mhm.
Socials relies on your personal brand being strong, you being active on LinkedIn, posting. How connected should, if someone else wanted to start an organization, marketing or whatever,
Mhm.
how connected should their personal brand be with their organizational brand? If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the answer is if you don't have a budget. So we've got two ways of bringing in new clients. One is advertising, and one is through my LinkedIn. If I, for some reason, lose all of my clients and don't have any marketing budget, I can still post on LinkedIn without incurring any
Yeah.
costs. So that is always there. So that's super important. Once you've got a marketing budget, I could stop posting on LinkedIn tomorrow and then still have a steady flow of new leads who have just seen my ads. Uh,
Mm.
those people don't know who I am, even though I am the person in the video. They often get on a call with someone else on my team. They're not there for me, as in the same way that people who have come through my LinkedIn might be. Um, but it's difficult. Some people think that you shouldn't rely on personal brand at all because it's not sustainable. And if you want to go on holiday or if you want to take a break from your business, you shouldn't be the face of it. That's an argument that some people make. I think it's the opposite. I think your personal brand and your personality is one of the strongest things that you have. So having a combination of the two is useful.
Yeah.
Especially because it reflects you, I guess, how you position yourself will also reflect how the company's values, the company's kind of personality in a sense, right? So if you come across as being very open, very transparent, very engaged, that kind of then relates to your company too. So people would then be more likely to engage with key socials. So I think that's really important. Just to kind of wrap things up, got just final question. So obviously we're called more than medics. So what does being more than a medic mean to you?
Yeah, that's a fun question.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, since I started medical school, I was always thinking about what I could do outside of medicine. You know, you get this idea that medicine is a vocation and it's very all consuming, and I'd never bought into that. I was always like, I want to be doing extra things outside of medicine and find out what I'm interested in.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's it really. It's kind of a harsh way to view things, I think, and some people have some backlash at this with medicine just being your job or just being your career. But I think it's really important, especially in the early stages, that you view it in that way
Yeah.
and think about other things that you can get involved in or do or explore, because otherwise you never will. And I think there's a really healthy relationship that you can have, not for me, because obviously I've decided that it's not the right path that I want to go down, but for people who do decide that they want to stay in medicine or make it a huge part of their life, there's still a really healthy balance where people work less than full time if they want to, or work in medicine but are also founder of a company or help companies, and just having a balance, and or
Yeah.
even taking sports super seriously. So
Yeah.
I think it's super important, and it's yeah.
Yeah. No, it's massive. Like I think you see it all too often, I think when people enter medicine or before medicine, you're this person has to do loads of extracurricular activities. You do sports, you do music, you do all this because you have to get in. Also, we enjoy it, that's the type of people we are. Then when we get into med school, we sort of are sucked into the bubble. We only do medicine, we're told you haven't got time for anything else. And it's very easy to sort of play into that. But when you sort of have a look outside the bubble, it's actually quite nice. There's air out there. It's quite freeing and it's quite liberating, and you get to do things. I guess through marketing, it's an outlet for creativity. It's an outlet for a way of thinking that medicine doesn't quite give you. And I'm guessing it's enriched your life and made you a lot more fulfilled as a result of it. Even though you're doing more work objectively, maybe than the next medical student sort of paradoxically makes you more fulfilled. So no, it was it is really important to see it that way. I guess just to finish, what are your sort of final tips you would give to medical students based on your experience with marketing? Yeah.
I think why a medical student would need marketing? I think it's probably just on LinkedIn. So whatever you're interested in, whether it's something like entrepreneurial or health tech or whatever related, or if it's purely clinical, it doesn't need to be that you're getting involved in like every academic paper that's coming out in your circles or every conference that's going on. It can just be that you start building relationships with people who are in a position that you want to be or you find interesting. There's so many people on LinkedIn that need your help as a medical student and will value the skills that you have. Just get on LinkedIn and start talking to people about it and asking them for opportunities and help. And yeah, you'll be a lot more fulfilled with what you're doing and also get a lot more opportunities.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tiarnán, for your time. And we look forward to seeing your journey and seeing Key Socials grow.
Thanks.